All right, welcome back. So we're going to look at a little bit of sample editing, and this is in the context of actually sound programming. So there are two levels of sound programming. There's actually at the program edit, which is sort of at the higher, more superficial level of editing and sound shaping. And then there's actually the layer of actually manipulating the actual sample, and that sits a little bit more in the below. Um, so the lower we go, the closer we are to the source of the actual sound. And so we're going to dive into the actual sample editor, but we're going to do it through the context of problem solving. So I've got a drum sound here. Okay, so you're not going to, this is one of those things where it's like tuning a guitar, or it's very finite and it's really through the lens of your own sensory. But the video is going to demonstrate of how to actually shape and fix something through the sample editor. So in this case, this snare, when I hit it soft, is perhaps just a little bit too soft. And that's because when I sampled this, I had a certain threshold of each layer and level. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the actual sample editor. I'm going to find that sample. And that sample, now, typically you can press a key on the MPC keys and it goes right to that sample, but there's a bug in the software and only some of the samples will show up. So we're going to go sort of the old fashioned way. I'm going to find that sample, and it's called if I can find it, snare right here. Okay, so I'm going to look at the three samples that make this actual sound. There's this one, there's this one, and this one. So far it's the lower sample, this one here, um, at the velocity of 41, which is the velocity that I actually recorded it at as. So this is like I said, trial and error, and a lot of this has to do with not just your preference, but how you interact with the sensitivity of the pads and your own personal touch. So there's no right or wrong ways, basically. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the sample editor on the lower sample. I'm going to hit process down here, and then in the function tab, I can see all the different things I can do to the actual sample itself. So I'm going to go into the gain change, and I'm going to play with it, the level, and I'm going to we'll take it up to 17. Okay, so already I can see that there's a difference in the amplitude already. And then I'm going to go and maybe tweak the next velocity, which is 82. And that's the second velocity of the three velocities. And I'm going to process this. And this is, through experience, you'll figure out sort of what these gain um, parameters and, the give on it, the natural give on these. So I'm going to go and set that to a gain of 3 decibels. So now I'm going to go in here and I'm going to play the same passage and see if I notice a difference. So already I noticed a difference. Okay, so that actually is pretty satisfactory for me. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to save it. Now you have an option to save it back to the expansion, which I have a video on that, or you can save it to another folder for future work in progress and so forth and so on. If you're not comfortable with the change, so I'm going to actually save it back because this is a change that I think I want more permanently. So I hit save, drum program, and I'm going to locate the source of where that came from, which is my expansions folder. And it was in my drum library, and it's called Easy Drum D, Easy Drum D, which is right here. So if I click on top of that to confirm that I'm writing over the same patch, overwrite, and it's actually going to save that destructive sample amplitude. So it's going to save that change. So you have to be careful, because if you're going to use that particular sample and it's going to be shared amongst multiple programs, that change will take effect in all the other programs that are connected to that sample. So, but in this particular case, I'm okay with it. Now, these principles also work with keyboard instruments and key group instruments. So, you may want a certain range of a key group to just have less velocity, or needs to be fixed more so from the original sampling session, and you can tweak it there. Nonetheless, you can do some non-destructive sound shaping, and it's limited to everything outside of the sample manipulation. And then by doing so, you can go to the program edit, and I'll hit the key, and you can kind of see the three samples that exist in this particular pad instrument here. And if I toggle here, I can start looking at some of the parameters. In this case, we're looking at the level adjustment. So if it's something that's sort of minor, like that it was too loud, the highest velocity might have been too loud, you can actually shape it using the MIDI level of the program. So let me just do an extreme example. I'm going to take the highest velocity of this instrument and take it down to 0. So now I can't hear it. Now if they start bringing it up, so I'm at 99. So I was actually comfortable with it being where it was, but you can still sound shape it without going into the destructive editing. But in the case of this particular situation, it was an amplitude issue of the original sampling session that could be fixed using the gain in the sample editor. But you still have access to some editing features in here. So maybe perhaps down the road I'll make a more in-depth video on the actual program editor. So anyway, until next time, everyone, peace out.